So let's have a look at the main sources of development sites. I've identified 11 that I've dealt with. There are a few more, but these are the main ones. If I just quickly talk through each of them, and then I'm going to then go and give you a lot more information on the first three, because I feel those are very important and they're quick start ones as well. So firstly, we've got infill plots. An infill plot is where if you piece together two gardens, side gardens from two houses, you can in effect make another plot of land. There's quite a few of those around still today. A double plot is where a house was built basically on two plots of land, and a lot of building that was done in the 1920s and 30s, you'll find that quite a lot of people would have bought an extra garden, so they had a bigger garden, but that is actually a plot of land which today you will quite easily get planning permission to put another dwelling on. Back garden plots, anywhere that has a large back garden has opportunity to build in the back of it, whether it be houses or bungalows, depending on how near the other residential units around it are. There are some important things that need to be considered, such as access for cars, emergency vehicles, refuge collection and stuff, but we'll talk about that another time. You've then got wasteland. Councils are selling more and more of wasteland on the verges of roads, roundabouts, etc., which if you piece them together with other back gardens and other such pieces of land, you can make very often a plot for a building, or, as I've seen quite a lot around the southeast, blocks of flats. Then got brownfield sites. Brownfield sites cover things such as garages and other kind of commercially used sites. In many town centres you'll find that there are garages and workshops to be found at the back of existing dwellings. These are ripe for conversion, because very often the buildings are old and decrepit and need demolishing anyhow. So they don't fetch a lot of money. You've got greenfield sites. The government's opening up more and more sort of greenfield sites on the verges of towns to allow extra housing to be built. Number 7 is converting existing houses. What I mean by that is converting them into flats. So you could have an old Victorian house which can be converted into 4 or 5 flats, or you can take a smaller house, as long as it's above about 1,400 square feet, and you can put a party wall down the middle and convert it into a pair of semis, believe it or not. That can be extremely profitable because there's such a shortage of family dwellings, and people don't always want flats. I've done a couple of these very successfully, where I've taken an existing house which I've bought for, let's say, £200,000, spent £100,000 putting a party wall down the middle, and then managed to sell both of them as, in effect, new build properties for over £200,000 each. So I've made myself a very nice profit. The 8th one is to demolish existing houses. So you may find if a house is mispositioned in a plot, and if you knock it down, you in effect create 2 plots, or you knock down 2 or 3 houses and then you create 5 or 6 plots, as well as opening up potentially back gardens, because then it gives you an access to create your own close or cul-de-sac. Number 9 is one that I came across really by accident, which is an existing block of flats, and there's tens of thousands of blocks of flats out there. And if you control the freehold, you can very often develop in the garden, because old blocks of flats were built on huge plots, which by today's standard you would put a lot more density, it's called, a lot more density of dwellings on it. So that gives you opportunity. You can also build on top of blocks of flats, and I've seen recently people building on top of garages that service blocks of flats as well. So it's very profitable if you can find the right ones. Number 10 is converting offices and farm buildings. Now, you used to have to get planning permission for doing this, which could be quite difficult because you had to prove that it wasn't being used and you couldn't let the offices out, etc. But the coalition government's change to permitted development rules mean that all you need is prior approval, which can't be reasonably withheld, to convert offices and farm buildings to residential dwellings. There are some guidelines for this, but actually it's quite straightforward. I've done it with a block of flats, where I bought the block of flats, with a block of offices, which I bought for a lot less than they would be if they were residential. Didn't spend a lot on doing the work because they already had soundproofing, etc. in place, and could sell them off as individual living units. It was brilliant. The 11th one is kind of a strange one that I come across alarmingly frequently, and that is sites that already have planning permission. One came to me literally a couple of weeks ago where I was asked, there's a plot of land with planning for 2 houses, and I looked at it and thought, well, surely it's big enough for 3. So I went and read through the planning notes. I spoke to my architect and he said, well, I can't understand it. They only ever put in for planning for 2 dwellings. So this particular planning officer we knew at the local council, and we rung up and asked her, and she said, oh, well, that's all they asked for. She said, yes, I think we probably would allow 3. I can't guarantee it. But I've managed to get an option on that site, so I'm about to put in for building 3 rather than 2. So I get some uplift, it's called, or planning gain on that.
So that was just a short snippet from one of the training videos inside the Property Developer Profits Club. Within the club, we show you exactly how to build a profitable property business, even if you have no experience and little money to start with. Plus, you can do this part-time. You see, when we started, we didn't have any property experience and our finances were not in the best of shape. But eventually we developed a foolproof system that allows ordinary people, just like you and I, to make money from property. Inside the club, you'll have access to over 55 videos, many legal agreements, templates, and basically everything you need to build a successful property development business from scratch. I've put together a video showing you how you can start making money from property right now. Simply click on the link in this video or below to find out more, and I'll see you on the next video.